Welcome back to Kingsport. This time, 1886. We have a wonderful cast of entirely returning Kingsporters, which is fantastic. And this is going to be a very, very special, because the calendar worked out this way, 5-part run. So let's see what's going to happen in this little fun town. There's so many monsters and so many unanswered questions. Why don't we start with my long collaborator and partner in crime, Serafina, who is playing Siobhan, the hunter, the worm.
Hi, yeah, I'm Serafina. I am not entirely sure who Siobhan is yet. I know that she is a member of high society. She's a dangerous human being, well, worm. And one of the features of the worm is that they view the people around them as either treasures or nothing. And so I have some decisions to make about my compatriots, my other PCs, about how she sees them. She has some sort of, I think I'm going to take the move the bait. So she has some sort of beautiful collection that she uses to sort of um, draw people in. I'm really just kind of excited to see how this playbook works. So yeah.
Yeah, because I always like to say I do not know the in playbooks that well, and my lovely cast keep picking them, so gradually being educated. Uh, okay, next we have another returning Kingsporter. Last seen in Kingsport 1692. Apparently it's all pre-20th century stuff for Leandro. Leandro, who's playing Alec Bride, our, our Hollow. Wow.
Yeah, Alice McBride, Hollow. I took a cue from Darrell and wrote a ridiculous 3-paragraph backstory, which is that's for other people to read. I don't read out loud. Basically, Alice is a replacement for another girl, also named Alice McBride, who kind of ran off with some Welsh girl, apparently off into the seas, and basically so that her father's heart wouldn't break, her sister made a pact with something in the woods to basically bring Alice back. And instead, the woods gave her an Alice, and specifically this Alice, who's kind of, yeah, because the hollow is basically the skin of someone who it's someone who's just been constructed, who's new to the world, and this Alice has the double misfortune of not only being new to the world but having to replace someone and having to take the cues of that specific someone. So she has to fit into everyone else's preconceptions of Alice McBride while trying to figure out if she really wants to be, or if she is Alice McBride, or if she wants to be something else. Unfortunately, her position's kind of well, we'll see how she goes along. I have 5 sessions of this. um, to see how she does. See, the move she took is better than nothing. So when you get in a condition, mark experience, and also face and try harder next time. If I screw up, give herself an appropriate condition, take +1 forward. Um, yeah, basically they're looking to find themselves out, which is, I guess, that's a recurring Monsterhearts theme, I suppose. Hopefully, she'll do better than the last time I was in Kingsport, or at least this character will.
Well, now, I mean, Ava is a legend. I mean, she still haunts Kingsport to this day. I mean, literally. But cool. Let us next go to Daryl, who is a returning Kingsporter from 1692 as well. That was a very hot cast, and this looks like another very hot character. Finch Greenwood, our queen.
So Finch Greenwood, who is definitely a descendant of a different Greenwood, although he doesn't really know what that means yet, is the queen. So he is a sovereign beauty. He is someone who deserves more than the rest of this wretched world, and I deserve the will and worship of those around me. And it's not only because I'm better than them, it's because I make them better, stronger, more beautiful, complete. They'd be nothing without me. That is the flavored text from the playbook. So Finch Greenwood is the son of a railroad magnate and a socialite, and so he is a part of the high society of Kingsport. He was not very good at much of anything other than like looking good and being pleasant conversation and knowing a lot about books. And so he's going to the Teachers Academy because he's trying to put off any conversations about inheriting his father's company. Although he doesn't really want to teach because he doesn't really like children either. And so he recently discovered something hidden in the Greenwood family attic, and that awakened something in him that started to give him these powers. And specifically, it's that he and his clique, which are other people from the Teaching Academy and from Upper Crust Society, who are all well connected with money and designer drugs, whatever that looks like in the 1880s, also have a telepathic communication with each other. So that is their current setup. Finch is the leader. He is cold and dark. He's not so good with being volatile, though. So we'll see what happens.
So we're talking about like flavored laudanum, I guess, is the designer drugs. Yeah. Cocaine is a perfect legal drug, by the way. I mean, just go pick it up at the local apothecary. And finally, definitely not least, David, returning this time from 1962, the dramatic version of Kingsport, playing Jonathon Brody, the Mortal.
Yeah, so Jonathon is kind of totally out of place here, really. He is just a guy. He comes from a working class family who work on the docks in Kingsport. He's a particularly skilled mathematician and got a scholarship to study at the Teaching Academy. He's kind of juggling doing that with still like picking up some early morning shifts down at the docks. As the mortal, or as the version of the mortal I've picked, he is hot and volatile. He will have a true love that will be determined shortly, but spoiler alert, is probably going to be Finch. So moves wise, I have excuses are my armor, which means I get to mark experience whenever I ignore something blatantly wrong with my lover or how they treat me, which is always fun. And I've actually taken, because we're sort of playing maybe slightly older characters than normal for Monsterhearts in this, I've actually taken an adult move as one of mine, which is intervene in an act of violence, which lets me put myself in between people when violence breaks out, which I'm sure will help.
Yeah, that never happens. That was a special feature for this run. I allowed our players to take one of the growing up moves in place of a playbook move because they are all students at a teacher's academy training. It's a somewhat mythical secondary / post-secondary school that is training people to be high school teachers. So they skew a little bit older. So I thought, and also because we do runs, people never get enough are around long enough to get adult moves. I figured it would be fun to spend. Okay. So I think to do is to do backstory first, which means David will go last because that's the mortal. So why don't we start with Gerald then, because the Queen has all kinds of fun stuff going on with backstory.
Okay. So I have two backstory elements, and the first one is that I name 3 side characters who are members of my gang, and I gain a string on each one of them. So I gave them names, and that is about it. There's 1 woman and 2 men. The first is Joy Sanderling. She is probably going to be like my right-hand lady, I'm assuming. And then the other 2 are Tommy Blakiston and Magnus Pye. And I'm assuming that those people will be more of my playthings. And then for my second backstory element, I find someone threatening. I need to give them a string on me, and I take a string on them. And so I think that's going to have to be Siobhan, because I think she's the one with the most presence in the room, aside from me, of course.
Cool. Oh, that looks scary. Fun. So I guess what I want to do, Siobhan next, because I think you have a very simple breakdown on this, right?
So Siobhan decides I have to decide who I treasure and describe the moment each caught my eye and give them each a string. So I think I treasure Alice and Jonathon. I think I didn't treasure Alice before Alice was the Hollow. I think the first time Alice arrived back, sort of looking lost and sad, I was drawn to her for that reason. And then I think Jonathon just seems so lost and displaced. I have a thing, I think, for lost souls. So you both take a string on me. And everyone else is merely currency. So each one gets to tell something mean that I have said to them, and I gain a string on each of them. So, Finch, what is something mean that I have said to you, and I gain a string on you?
You said what a lot of people have thought, that my father was a social climber for marrying my mother, and that like my position in society is not deserved.
That makes sense.
It begins so soon. It just wow. Okay. So well, let's go ask Alice. I think she knows her backstory questions.
Yeah, sorry, I was just struck by like, oh my god, we have two arch manipulators going after each other, and there's a poor hollow and a poor mortal stuck in between. God. It's gonna be a war.
We're basically looking at dangerous liaisons, aren't we? It's
Okay, first backstory question. You've been taking your social cues from someone, and doing so has taught you a lot about them. Gain 2 strings on them. Ooh, that's interesting. I guess, yeah, I'm not really sure. Initially I thought Siobhan for mainly, I think because this Alice is definitely, yeah, she's kind of lost in the minefield, and she sees this kind of like, I don't say terrifying person kind of take interest in her.
Yeah.
And she kind of figures, all right, if I just do as she does, I'll do fine. And the thing is, I think we'll probably get this in homeroom when we start inventing NPCs. This is not exactly like old Alice. Old Alice was tempestuous. She was a kind of student who skated on mediocre grades and just wanted to live life. Hence why she skipped out of town. So I think this Alice tries to do that, and she figures, all right, maybe Siobhan can teach her at least the pointers of that, or at least she can learn from Siobhan.
Yeah.
But yeah, that means it's taught me a lot about you, so I've gained 2 strings on you. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's great.
Fab. And someone's seen through your invented past and realized it's all lies. They gain 2 strings on you. I don't know. Our queen seems smart. I think they can see through that. They can see through this fairly transparent lie.
Okay. Is there anything specific that you did that tipped me off to the fact that you were an imposter at the very least?
May I think you were friendly with Alice, as friendly as you can be, I guess. Yeah, but and this Alice wasn't as close. She was a bit more withdrawn. She's not like the kind of the she's not like the kind of girl you knew. She wasn't she didn't stand on her own 2 feet as much as she used to. And I think it's just the whole demeanor. It's clearly because she was gone for a few days and just came back and just she's all weird now. I think it's probably more obvious here. Maybe even you and Old Alice used to be friends, and you knew she wanted out.
Ooh, let's
And
be like childhood friends or something like that. And then like
ooh,
I can tell that like the whatever came back was not the Alice that I knew. So, and it's like it may be what's Eliza's Alice, but it's not my Alice.
yeah, this is basically like Eliza's idea of Alice, but not yours. Because
How
people
many
are complicated.
strings?
You gain 2 strings on me.
Okay.
Okay, now the big moment. David, your backstory.
Indeed. So, yeah, my backstory, as mentioned, is choose one person to be your lover. Give them 3 strings on you and take 1 string on them. Yeah, no, I think I am going to go with my initial gut instinct, which is to say that I think I'm desperately in love with Finch. I've not done anything to reveal this yet. Well, I say that. I mean, the 3 strings say that he may have an inkling, I guess, but I have not I've not yet made a confession or anything of the like. But yeah, I'm pretty into him. And obviously, people say he might be a bit arrogant and stuff, but if they really got to know him, the true heart that beats underneath that, then
I like that you take such a bright view of me. I can't wait to disillusion you. Okay, so how long have we known each other then?
I would say probably just from school. Whether we went to the same school before the academy or not, I don't know. But
Probably not.
probably not. Yeah, I imagine you went to a much better school. Yeah, that makes sense. So probably only since we absolutely do not move in the same social circles. So yeah, I think it makes sense. Probably we've only met through school.
Okay. And then obviously you did something at one point that endeared yourself to me because you got a string on me. So we'll find out what that is.
Yeah.
Is that the only? That's the mortal question, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's the only one for the mortal.
Nope.
Cool. Before I forget, our old friend, roll for your party in the Duly Wise Kitten room. Okay, cool. So hey, let's talk safety tools. We use the X card here, mostly because that's the one I know the best. As a quick reminder, the X card allows us to get closer to putting problematic content in the game by allowing us to stop whenever there's problematic content. There is a button on Rule for your party. You can also say X card. You can do this. Put it in the sidebar chat. And by the way, I encourage everyone to use the sidebar chat to raise questions, get my attention. I try hard to make sure everybody gets their spotlight time, but I am human, and today I am kind of tired, so I may screw up. If I do, please just put a little, hey, can you swing over to me next? And that's fine. Uh, I don't know that there's going to be as many shirtless men in the Victorian 19th century. You have to work hard on that. See, our folks at home are like, "What are you laughing about?" And people are mostly ribbing me for the enormous amount of shirtless men there were in the 1692 run.
It was so good.
It was
Yeah, I don't
good.
think ribbing was like the answer there. I think that was like really playful.
Look, you introduce one shirtless woodland god named Fear the God Lord Wood, and then
He's my
just
favorite.
never lived that. Yeah, he was pretty cool. Cool. Also, we use lines and veils on the Mist tab. I have the ones that I carry over usually from the other games. The current lines with sexual assault and romantic coercion, we're just not going to have them. Again, X-Carbo Plus. Given this crew and some of the ideas I have, may walk up to that line, so let's all make sure that we police it. For veils, I have explicit child abuse and sex. Those seem to strike me as good ones. Are there any ones that people want to talk about right now? Besides those? Like, some people don't like animal abuse, that sort of thing. Cool. At any time, if we need to raise a line or veil, just give me a shout and we will talk about it. And we can revisit those at the every session. Cool. All that being said, let's do homeroom. Fun, 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 fun. So let's get a homeroom teacher. Let's have what's a super good waspy name? There we go. No, not good enough. There we go. Headmaster Lead Fellow. Because, yeah. So I think the academy is actually rather small. It's sort of the equivalent. It's a Victorian equivalent of a magnet school, kind of. It's a small class where everybody gets intensive training. I'm sure there are subject matters beyond the headmaster, and there's probably more than one room in this academy. But I imagine a lot of your day is going to be here, and so normally I have a moment where I have to try and figure out who's who's the most popular in this group. We have a queen, so that's not a problem. So why don't we start with that? Let's start with Finch. Where do you sit? And tell me where your little cronies, click, sit.
Well, of course, we basically take up the entire center of the room because we're the center of attention. Finch is, of course, center upper left. And then Joy is, of course, right next to me. And then she's my right-hand lady after all, so she's to my right. And then I assume that I probably like Magnus more, and he's directly behind me versus Tommy, who's probably a little newer, and he's to the far right.
Well, that's the thing of beauty. That really is. So let's go to your dark opposite. Siobhan, where do you sit?
I think Siobhan sits right up at the front left-hand side of class.
Good. So cool. So Siobhan's gig is treating people like things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if we can.
She just doesn't think that anyone is anything other than a thing.
Fair enough. What kind of thing does that look like? I mean, I know we're gonna find some of this out, but because I want you to have done that to one of one of the gang of three.
um, I think that honestly, she just behaves the way an aristocratic woman would. Um, she sort of addresses everyone by their exact title within society without fail. Um, People that she considers lower than her are simply their last name, that kind of deal. And she really is only interested in how they function for her. Yeah.
So cool. So which one of Joy, Magnus, or Tommy did you do that to? I mean, like in a way that was serious and breaking of them.
Do we have any definitions for those people yet? We don't kind of know who they are, right?
I'm going to assume that they're probably roughly the same social class as Finch, probably just like a rung lower.
Mm-hmm. I think that I knew that Magnus's father married below his station, and so I consistently treat him as such. Like he is a like lower version of upper class. Um, and so I kind of treat him like dirt.
That's excellent. That's not going to come back to harm anybody. Cool. Let's see about Jonathan. Jonathan, where do you sit in homeroom?
I think I'm going to take that back right desk there. Yeah, he tries to keep kind of out of a bit of a low profile, I suppose, and yeah, and that seems like a good spot to do that from. And you know, he can also kind of gaze adoringly at Finch from there from time to time. So you know, swings and roundabouts.
So, tell me, who is the person who is a fellow person up from the docks of Kingsport, and where do they sit?
That will be Louise Callahan. She sits. Trying to think if she sits near Jonathon or not. I think she maybe sits in one of those two center desks at the front. She's very she's obviously, again, because she's sort of here on a scholarship, she's very studious, but I think she is also very keen on sort of being seen to be doing her bit sort of thing, whereas yeah, Jonathon's a bit more low key.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So, Alice, where do you sit?
Unless people have ideas for whoever's sitting there, I think Alice sits in between. Well, not in between, but perpendicular to Siobhan and Finch. Yeah, right there. Kind of like I'd say like if there's a Cold War between the two of them, Alice is Europe.
Excellent. So, why do you have it in for Louisa? What does she do to you?
I don't have an in. Louisa is also like a working class girl. Yes. Hmm. I think Alice has it in for her because. Hmm. I'm not exactly sure yet, but I think it's Alice thinks she has it in for Louisa, but this is kind of like this is the other Alice who had it in, and she only thinks she has it in for Louisa because well, that's what Alice did. So she doesn't like Louisa because she. I think Louisa promised Alice to get her out, to help her like get out of Kingsport to an extent, and she felt she squelched on that. She didn't come true. I think Louisa thought that Alice was just they were just joking around, and but Alice was deathly serious about getting out. And she thought, and Louisa thought Alice was being childish.
Very nice. Okay, I'm gonna have Alice take a string on you, but you may feel free to take a string on Alice if you on. I'm sorry, Louise taking a string on you. You may take a string on Louisa if you so feel.
Yeah, you say that, and I'm thinking, oh wait a minute, because that could actually so that might actually happen. No, well, maybe could. Yeah, I'll take a string
Yeah,
on
that's a good point. Yeah. Oh wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
her. She's not dead; she just left.
No, I know. Hmm. Now you're giving me ideas. Good ideas.
No.
I like. Cool. 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 So let's see. Cool. This is an interesting question, but I don't think I've ever done this before. But let's try this. Hey, Siobhan,
Hmm.
who doesn't come to class in school anymore, and why is that your fault?
Oh. I think a young man named Andrew doesn't come to school anymore. And it's because Siobhan felt threatened by him um, because of his attitudes towards one of her treasures, probably Alice. He was too pushy, too interested, and so she used her considerable influence to dig up some dirt and got him kicked out of school.
Really? Too interesting, huh? So Alice, what was the deal between you and Andrew? Was he coming?
Ah, I think Andrew was very much always into Alice, but Alice was quite good at batting him away. Well, that Alice, not this one. And yeah, this Alice kind of like doesn't really know how to to use the move shut. She didn't know how to shut him down. Also, note Alice has a -1 in cold, so that checks out. And so yeah, I think it was just getting irritating, but she didn't know how to like tell him to go away.
Mm.
Uh, and yeah, it just it. I think it was visibly getting to Alice in a way that was never gonna happen with the other Alice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Siobhan. Fuck Mary Kill. Joy, Magnus, and Tommy. Which one?
Me?
Oh yeah.
Um. Okay. Uh. Cool. Um. Whew. Fuck Magnus. marry Joy, kill Tommy. It's a terrible game.
Jonathan, same question.
Whoa.
Jonathan, actually.
Oh,
Alice.
sorry.
Alice, we can assume may need some trouble parsing those terms. But...
Yeah, just that to remind me to get some writing material.
Yeah, so obviously marry Joy for legal reasons. Kill. I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna say kill Magnus. Fuck Tommy.
Fun. Cool. Oh, nuts. I should check something. Let me just see something real quick. Here we go. Cool. Oh, and actually, let's not. Cool. So Samuel Moore is a scion of the very influential members of the African American community, the Moore family. One of you has stood up for him, and one of you has been stood up for by him. Question: who gets which?
One of us has been stood up for by him, and one of us has stood up for him.
That's right.
I think that Jonathon might have stood up for him at some point. That's kind of his shtick, I think.
Take a string on him, then. Can you tell me a little bit about the incident?
Yeah, I think in fact I'll tie it into to my previous answer, and I think maybe Magnus was teasing him, berating him, what have you. And I don't think I even know what the background was there, but yeah, he was. I sort of got involved. I don't think it actually devolved into a fight, but I did kind of physically intervene, sort of got Magnus to back down.
Excellent. Okay, and who got stood up for by Samuel?
I think Siobhan did. I think I've done him a favor before in the hopes that he would do me one in return, and he came through. Because I think you pay your debts back to her.
Nice. Thoughts on what that favor was?
I'm not entirely sure, but I just like the idea of her stuff actually coming round to roost.
Perhaps you accompanied Mr. Moore at events, or is that too scandalous?
No, you know what? I think that's actually a great idea because even though she is this like social climber, she doesn't actually give a shit what anyone thinks about her.
I like that.
Yeah.
Deal. let's play with that. Cool. So I don't think we have a strong feel of how Alice feels about the click. So let's again. Well, we know. What? Who is it that saw through your guys? That was
That'd be Finch.
Yeah, Finch did. Right. Because but you were friends with the clique. Was that how that worked?
Uh,
The other Alice.
yeah, Prime Alice, Alice Prime. Yeah. No, I think she was more friends with Finch. Definitely, that's how Finch saw through me because I'm clearly not his Alice. I think, I think she might as well. She could have been part of the clique if she wasn't just so she didn't have a great streak of wanderlust in her. And I think maybe the other three kind of like were almost glad that there's this that Alice is kind of like, oh no, she knew her place, because I didn't mention her family's kind of like middle class. Her dad's retired. He's much older. Uh, her older brother's kind of like trying to take over the small merchant business they have. They're doing fine, but they're not doing terribly well. They're like, a couple bad days away from slipping down the wrong. And so I think the clique were a bit threatened by this woman who didn't know her place, um getting friendly with Finch, and then suddenly she kind of doesn't want to do anything, and she's clearly more lost and confused than ever. So I think they're kind of like friendly-ish. I think it's more the case that like Alice is wary of them. Well, she's wary of all four of them, really, because they might see through what they do. I don't think she knows it exactly yet, but I think they know quite a bit that she's not who she says she is. Cat, we can't hear you.
I did it backwards and in high heels. Of the who is the one that's still interested in recruiting you, and who is one that is even more vicious to you now?
Mm, I think Magnus is probably a bit more vicious because his as mentioned, his father married below his station, so he has a precarious place, kind of like in society. So he's perfectly fine. He's perfectly fine in his position right now, but he doesn't want this equilibrium they built up with this clique with Finch being disrupted. So so he's definitely threatened. Still is. For those who's still interested, um, I kind of want to say Joy because Joy knows what it's like to be, woman in this society, and I think she's. I don't know, Daryl. Do you think Joy would be about that?
So, I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about, and I don't know how this would really play into the history of it, but from the beginning, I kind of imagined that like Joy was biracial actually. And so like, I get that like, I feel like she would probably, of anybody, understand the most, like having secrets and having society judge you for like the way you were born and things like that, not just as a woman, but also like being kind of like of that, but apart from it as well. So I think that would be like maybe this like sudden like difference in you might actually draw her towards you a little bit more.
hmm Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so I think it'd be Joy because I get my idea of the other Alice is basically she's very full on. That makes sense. She was a bit of a force, and yeah, then this Alice is definitely someone who doesn't want who no, she kind of has to be that, but she's not. So yeah, that makes sense. Joy would probably see that as like, okay, she's just Alice is just a bit more agreeable now, and she'll sense that change.
Cool. So Finch, uh, Joy and Magnus's attitudes towards Alice. Which one is a naked power play, possibly against you, and which one is an obvious attempt to suck up at you?
That's hard. So I think that it's probably like Magnus is the one who's probably trying to game the system a little bit and like definitely get like on top of things. And I think that like Joy, I think she's motivated for Alice by a more like compassionate aspect, and not necessarily that she wants to like, like use this to like engineer against me or anything like that. I think she just sees like she probably sees Finch like shutting Alice down, and she probably doesn't feel super great about it. So maybe there is some resentment there, but she's not using it as a way to like put like a schism in the group or something like that. Whereas I think Magnus is definitely trying to like he saw Finch like be cold towards Alice and decided that like okay it's time to dogpile and like is trying to use that to get ahead in some way.
Excellent. Yes. All right. Last thing I want to find out is a little bit about Eliza McBride. She's not in the homeroom because she has better things to do with her life. But so Eliza was friends with was Eliza friends with Finch? Did I hear that right?
No, it was the other Alice. Eliza's probably a bit younger. Yeah, just a bit younger. I'd say if our group is like on the cusp of adulthood, she's like proper Monsterhearts teenager. At this time.
I think she probably would have still run in our circles socially, and I probably would have seen her as like the bratty younger sister of my good friend. And so I'm assuming that we have kind of like a what is it, like a truce of some sort. Like I just put up with her, she puts up with me, even though we have much better things to do than like deal with each other.
Yeah, and I think she is. I think it's kind of known that she has like weird interests. She's interested in the woods. She's interested in the legends in the woods, and obviously not everyone. I don't think anyone but Alice knows this, but yeah, she went in there and made a deal with someone, and brought this Alice back. So she's definitely has like a reputation in town.
Cool. Siobhan, what's your story with Eliza?
I think that Eliza kind of inspired me to actually take this education seriously. Because I am strictly here because my parents have forced me to find some sort of occupation. And I don't particularly appreciate it. But because Eliza was so dedicated and so like into what she was doing, she kind of inspired me to care a little about this entire enterprise.
And what about you, Jonathan?
I think I have maybe I've probably not had much contact with her, but I have met her sort of out in the woods or along the beach or something like that. And sort of I have spoken with her, and I think maybe I think I think I maybe told her some sort of like, folk stories that my family have told me, sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's probably the extent of our um connection. But yeah.
Excellent. Interesting. Very cool. Okay. Yep. I think the last thing to know is, so let's see, Jonathan stood up for. Jonathan was the one who stood up for Samuel, right? Did I make a note on that? I don't remember if I did. No, sorry, Siobhan who stood up for Samuel, right?
Jonathan stood up for me, and then
Right.
Jonathan stood up for him, and then I asked him, or he asked me to return a favor.
Got it. Sorry about that. Okay. I think that's enough to go on for now. Okay. Given that we've finished homeroom, we finished backstory, want to take an early break, and then we'll just hit the ground running when we get back?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's take 5 minutes or so. When we get back, let's try and make this thing do something or another. Ciao. One thing I wanted to check was Alice's dad, Winfield McBride. He said he's older, right?
Yeah, like I think he's much older than like the average like dad in the group. So he's kind of retired now. Like maybe he had children like mid to late 30s, or maybe
Or,
just a bit older. Yeah.
he might have had a previous wife and a previous generation of kids too. That was a thing that happened.
Really?
But I was gonna, yeah. Oh, you didn't even think of that possibility? Yeah, definitely remarriage with with 3 or 4 kids. Yeah, that's the total thing that happens.
Yeah, probably not this one.
Thing,
Oh, go on. No, go on.
oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, because yeah, maybe not with Winfield. I think he's just he was just this lovable dad who doted a lot on Alice, maybe too much, honestly. And part of why Eliza decided to bring back Alice is so that Alice wouldn't break her dad's heart.
But the thing about him being a little older, then it's my guess that maybe he fought in the Civil War.
Yeah, I very much think yes.
Because if he was maybe, yeah, that would be easy. Because if he was maybe 20 in the Civil War, that would make him about. Yeah, he could even be older than that. Because what is he? What do you think he is? About his 50s?
Yeah, around his 50s, I'd say.
Yeah, so he was old enough. He probably was an officer. What does he do? What is their business?
I think like it used to be like it is just be for some reason calling my head like it's just a small merchant enterprise. I think he used to be, I don't know if they had wholesalers back then, but it'd be kind of that sort of equivalent, I'd say.
Yeah, he probably maybe like runs an import business then.
Yeah.
Because it's still a port. Interesting. Cool. Huh. So Finch, your family are railroad people, huh?
Yeah. My father, Franklin Greenwood, was the sole survivor of the war of the rebellion, and decided that he was gonna make sure that his family, the Greenwoods, would be able to weather any storm because they lost pretty much everything. And so he built up he managed to get into railroading and built up this huge like empire out of it, basically.
Nice. So he's probably a little bit at odds with the elite of Kingsport since they are into shipbuilding.
Definitely so, and especially because the Greenwoods go through cycles of feast and famine. So, like the Greenwoods weren't super well off for the last couple of generations, and it feels a little bit like social climate because they may have been like hot stuff in like the 1730s or something like that, but it's been a very long time since they've been anything impressive.
Nice. Also, is Alice family Scottish? Because that's the Scottish spelling of McBride.
Sorry, say that again.
Is Alice's family Scottish? Because that's the Scottish spelling.
Yeah, I think on her mother's side.
Cool.
Might give her a more Scottish name.
And Siobhan is Irish as fuck, huh?
Siobhan's very Irish.
Interesting. Black gentry. Wow, there must have been some blood in that background somewhere.
Yeah.
And what do you mean by blood of the crown for Tabitha, Siobhan's mother?
I think that she the reason that they have as much money as they do is that she was like a duchess or countess or some sort of affiliation with the royal family back in the old country.
Oh my God, you're Anglo-Irish.
Oh yeah.
You are lace curtain Protestant freaking orange Irish, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Oh no! There's absolutely no trouble between you and the hundreds and thousands of immigrants who have poured into the region in the last 50 years, and none whatsoever.
Mm-mm. I mean, maybe not with Siobhan, but with her parents, certainly.
I mean, there were Protestant Irish in Boston too, but
Yeah.
And Jonathon's family are dock workers. Fantastic.
Yep.
Have they been Kingsporters for long? Are they recent immigrants to America, or?
I hadn't 100% decided actually whether they were newer immigrants or whether they've been in the. I think they've probably been in the town a while. Probably. I think maybe Jonathon is maybe like third generation. So not like here since its founding, but an established family in the town.
So they might have been famine Irish who came over then. Cool. It's a little later, but yeah, that works. Okay, cool. Okay, wow. Yeah, wow. This is a nice little stew we're all cooking ourselves up here tonight. Excellent. So, the way I think that we'll start is it is Friday, April the 9th, 1886. And that is a significant day because April the 9th, 1865 is the day that Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Grant. And as a good Union town with a very large, though aging and dwindling Grant Army of the Republic contingent, and for those of you playing at home who aren't history buffs, the Army of the Republic was a sort of veterans organization of Union Army veterans. As such, since you are named after a patriotic colonel of War of the Rebellion, points to Daryl for using War of the Rebellion, which was a contemporary term, they have invited the famed man of letters, Colonel Thomas W. Higginson, writer, author, radical, preacher at one time, Civil War veteran. He led a unit of African-American troops during the Civil War. He is an advocate for radical causes such as women's suffrage and integration and equality before the law. So he is coming to address the class. And since it's a GAR event, I think Winfield is there in his old uniform. And I think that might be open as he's talking to Alice, and he's like, "Now, Alice, love, don't. I know you've been a little off lately, but just try and behave before Mr. Higginson. He's a great man."
Alice is kind of like she's trying to she's just kind of like head down. It's kind of like, yes, Father, I know what I meant to do.
No, don't worry, child. I'm sure you'll do fine, but I should emphasize that if you make a favorable impression of Mr. Higginson, he can do your career. So,
What sort of favorable impression is he looking for?
well, he's a great believer in the support of the women doing. I don't know. Just I mean, support your career. He could give you a career in letters. At the very least, he knows everybody in New England. He can find you a fine posting somewhere.
Is a career in letters a good thing?
Oh, I mean, it would not be the worst thing in the world for you to have a fine career writing for ladies' journals, or perhaps you could write some of those novels. And there are many fine writers of novels these days of the lady persuasion. Just
Is that what you want me to do?
Alice, I just want you to be happy again. You've not been happy a lot of these many days.
But I am happy. I'm terribly happy. How could I not? You're fine health. So is Eliza, and my studies are doing fine. I couldn't be any happier.
Well, I'm glad you keep your spirits up. That's the way. That's truly a Christian way of handling it. He looks like he's about to say "be yourself," and then he thinks better of that. Like, just be on your best behavior. Now go talk to your friends. I'm sure you don't want to spend your time talking to an old veteran like me.
No, okay, Father. Okay. She looks stricken. Like, oh, well, I messed that up. She walks off.
So, what is our other people doing? I imagine the clique is there, hanging around doing the 1880s equivalent of looking cool.
Indeed, we are. We're there, and we are dressed in all of our, our most modest of finery, because we don't want to outshine those who we're here to honor today. And so we're simply there. And then actually, I think I'm rather close by, and I've watched this whole exchange go by between Alice and her father, and give like a little smirk as she goes by.
I think she notices that, but her father's told her to not make any fuss, so she kind of stops, and she kind of sees you, and she's trying to figure out what kind of expression to make, but she can't, because she doesn't have practice, so she's kind of just looking blankly at you.
And I walk over, and I think I get mad that you don't react. Actually, it kind of infuriates me because you just stare at me vacantly, and I don't know what to quite make of it. So I walk over there, and I look down at you, and I just say, "Good day, doppelganger."
Doppel is.
Why don't you roll plus cold there for me?
Where's our room over here? 2d6. Right, that's a 6, but my cold is an +2, so it's an 8.
Cool. You're gonna take a condition, but you get to do something. Which one do you want?
Let's see. You just G. So I think I'm going to give Alice the condition shaken, to be called out in such a manner.
No, you think you're not doing her a favor, but you really are.
Yeah, sweet advancement. And hold on, let me look at the moves again. And you get a condition turn. I think. Let's see. You're coming up. You're being very obvious. Just, I guess, unsubtle. I think. Since you just called me doppelganger right out here in the open.
I mean, I don't think anyone else is listening to us.
Yeah, but I think people would notice if you just march up to me and you're like, yeah, and you see and then people see I'm suddenly very shaken. So you think I'm unsubtle makes sense?
The unsubtle, I feel like aggressive would probably be better.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Or what's an 1880s way of saying like being a bitch? But we'll go with aggressive for now.
Yeah, and I think Alice is struck by that. I think is this the first time you've outright said it that you think she's not?
I think that we've probably had some like tense conversations along the lines of like, I just don't even know you anymore. Like, and then so, so I think that this is probably, I think I've alluded to the fact that like, I think something is wrong with you, but this is probably the first time that I've been like, you are not my friend.
Yeah, and I think when you say hello doppelganger, I think Alice kind of like just she finds what expression she uses. She just used the stricken one that she just had, and it's like so. Fancy words you got there, Finch. There's no need to be so cruel about it.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm always kind to my friends.
Well, then why don't you go talk to them then? Why are you harassing me?
I just like to know where all of my friends are.
Can Siobhan walk in right now?
I think absolutely.
I think at that moment, Siobhan, swoops in next to the two of you and says, "My goodness, Finch, isn't it a bit early for your particular type of cutting remark?"
And then I just look to you and I say, and he's like, my, someone's up rather early for being such a layabout.
You'll do excuse me if I don't engage you in your usual bandying of words. It's far too early, and we have a respectable person to listen to today.
Do you want to roll with cold, Siobhan? Because
Sure.
you could roll with code if you wanted to.
But are you shutting me down or are you calling me on my shit?
I think calling you on your shit. Let's do that.
How much?
Right? Gosh. Well, that's terrible. I roll a 5.
That's cute.
It just doesn't go well at all.
That's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So you're beaming out of the suddenly looming right behind you, so that Finch sees and can shut his pretty mouth in time, but you're still going on. Is the master,
Oh no.
and he just turns you around like, well, well, Miss Hunter, why don't you please take your seat and stop bandying insults with my other students?
Indeed. Come on, Alice.
Alice is kind of like she's kind of figure out what to finally say to Finch, but it's too late. And she's like, "Oh, okay." And she goes to Siobhan.
So I want to know where Jonathon is.
Yeah, I think Jonathon is probably already sort of sat in his chair. He's wearing his Sunday suit today, which is slightly less worn than his regular school suit. He's actually looking kind of probably, yes, noticeably sort of this is clearly something he's actually kind of excited for, because even though what sort of got him into the scholarship was his, like I said, he's good at maths. He's actually really interested in reading books and that, and so he's actually quite excited to meet Mr.
No, Higginson.
Higginson. That's it.
Cool. Cool. Are you standing? So where are you? Like trying to sit in the front, or what do you do? Because you see Finch, I guess, going to the back is or the middle. Where does Finch and the cool kid hang out?
So I think that because we were standing off to the side and having our little altercation, the seats all at the front probably filled up, and so there's like Joy is towards like the rear, and she's like waving Finch down for a seat, and so he's probably walking around the back of the room, and so he's close enough that potentially Jonathon might catch his attention. And in fact, I think that's what he does. I think that as Jonathon is about to like go up one of the aisles of the chairs that have been set out, he glances over at Jonathon and then sees something that bothers him, and then he walks over there and then like kind of like gives Jonathon a curt nod, but then very very like subtly kind of like positions himself in such a way that as he goes, he straightens Jonathon's collar because it was slightly crooked and it was just not in place, and it bothered Finch.
Yeah, I think it's going to. I think, yeah. Jonathon kind of looks that combination between kind of slightly annoyed that Finch has sort of come up to him, but at the same time not entirely unhappy with it.
Okay, so yeah, Finch finishes adjusting your collar and then like looks you dead in the eye, and it's like, can't have you looking a mess for our honored guest, which I think is the translation on. Which of course I have like a -1 of hot because I'm not playing a hot character this time. Let's see.
Then this will be entertaining.
it's a how did that happen? Hold on. It's technically a 6. It says that it was a 9. Anyway, it is a 5. Yeah.
Oh dear. Cool. So, you're leaning into. So, are you aware of Jonathan's interest in you, or I know that Jonathan said he hadn't really declared it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you haven't noticed.
I think that for once, Finch is actually probably oblivious to this. I think there's a certain element of Jonathan being below his station, so he doesn't he kind of just phases out on that. But Jonathan did him a solid at one point, and so he probably feels kind of a desire to watch out for him because he's obviously amongst a bunch of sharks here, and it's one of the few times that Jonathan or that Finch is showing any kind of kindness. So I think that it's not even meant to be flirty, and I think that's why in Jonathan or in Finch's eyes it wasn't.
Nice. So, I should have probably mentioned this. I don't think this is happening at the school. I think this is happening at a nearby church because that would have more room, and that's just how New England rolls. So as you're leaning in to strain the collar, you hear this raucous cawing outside, and you glance out and you look into the churchyard where there's a little graveyard, because of course there is. And there's these 2 huge ravens sitting on a tree, and they kind of look right at you with that, sideways head cock. And when they hit your eye, they just stare for a second, and then they flap off into the air. And so that's what caused you to sort of chance you had. You're just sort of like.
Is that something that might require me to keep my cool? Sounds kind of weird.
What are you afraid of?
Well, I mean, it's.
It is the Victorian age. People are obsessed with death, so.
Yeah. I mean, and crows are not, auspicious birds. So I think that there's probably I'm probably viewing it as an omen because I'm pretty recently rather superstitious.
Well, I would advise you then to keep your cool.
Question: did my dice change in the thing? Because it doesn't seem to be reroll. Oh wait, there we go. Okay, so it's a 14.
Whoa. Good. You're going to get to ask me a question. Also, don't forget to mark XP rolling that miss before. You too, Serafina. Oh, you heard you? Cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, you may ask me a question about the situation and take +1 for following up on it.
So I think that in this particular situation, Finch is probably a little heightened right now, and he kind of looks around the church and he's wants to see if he can suss out any anything that might threaten his position right now.
Okay. Well, what you see is Magnus sitting in front of one of the pews. He's, hanging out by one of the pews. He's got his arm kind of relaxed and just around Joy, not in any way that's untoward, because this is the 1880s, but there's a certain familiarity he's taking. And Tommy is sort of just nodding and laughing along. And the horrible thing, no one's paying any attention to you at all. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think after the color adjusting, Jonathon is going to sort of flush slightly, and he's just going to do that thing of just making like one small last adjustment himself after after Finch has done it, just to show that he's capable of taking care of himself. Thanks, Greenwood.
Of course, Brody. I always help a classmate in need. Are you excited to hear from Higginson?
Yeah, I read his last book. Was real good. You seen it yet?
I'm sure I've read it at some point. I read quite a bit, so I can't remember absolutely everything I've read. But I think that we should. I think we should get to our seats. And in fact, I do believe that there's an extra seat that just opened up in my pew. So why don't you come with me? And at this point, like I don't even wait for an answer. I kind of like do that graceful gentleman thing where I like gesture you forward, and I move us very quickly over to where Joy is. And it's very apparent that there's only one seat, but I just look Magnus in the eye and I say, Magnus, my dear friend, I'm sure you won't mind if we allow Jonathon to join us. I know he's very excited to hear from Colonel Higginson.
So Magnus kind of gives the raised eyebrow and says, why, of course, we can certainly make a place for young Brody. Please, sit ye down, Brody. Sit right here next to Finch. I'll just sit next to Joy.
Oh no, Magnus, I think that someone as strong and broad shouldered as you might be more comfortable in the aisle behind us. I always sit next to Joy, of course.
That feels like you're trying to shut him down a little.
I am definitely trying to shut him down.
Why don't you roll them bones?
And it's a 10.
So no, you will not take a condition turn. Okay. What are you doing to poor Magnus?
You know what? He's gonna gain a condition. His condition's gonna be snubbed.
Ouch. Cool.
And then as he like saunters away, I'm going to gesture like very welcomingly to Jonathon and give him like my most courteous smile.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, I will nod and take the seat. I'll kind of well, obviously I won't be wearing a hat in church, but I'll give sort of a nod to Joy as well as I sit down.
Cool. All right. So with that, Headmaster Goodfellow would and introduces Colonel Higginson. He gives the standard, long list of titles, and then Higginson comes out. Still a sprightly man, he's portly and has, as you've seen in the little picture I put up, incredibly bushy sideburns. And he gives a very florid 19th century speech. It goes on far too long. Mostly about the primacy of education and how important it is that you educate people, especially the less fortunate, and how important and dear to him is the cause of the education of women. And He has little gems like this one. In our most methodical American life, we still recognize some magic in summer. Most persons at least resign themselves to being decently happy in June. They accept June. They compliment its weather. They complain of the earlier months as cold and so spend them in the city. And they complain of the later months as hot, so refrigerate themselves on the sea coast. God offers us yearly a necklace of 12 pearls. Most men choose Paris, label it June, and then cast the rest away, which is a pretty fair sample of him. But at the very end, he returns to his whole education and he says, I put it to you all to remember that it is not your birth that makes a great man, for in this country, great men may rise from any position. It is not. It is not the condition of how you were born or who you were born. Why, I could tell you the finest poets in all of New England is a rather cracked old spinster who lives all by her, who lives in her father's house, and yet she is a great poet. So do not be fooled by preconceptions, but strive to educate both your eyes and your heart. And with that, he sits back and is more than happy to take questions from anyone who wants to suck up, actually ask a real question, or whatever you want to do. You can do that, or ask to the after party.
I think sitting a few rows back, I lean over and whisper to Alice, he says that anyone can be anything, but what of the plight of the recently emancipated? It doesn't seem to me like they are getting anywhere. And what about women? We don't seem to have a leg up.
Do we not?
No, my darling, of course not. Men own everything, white men especially.
That doesn't seem fair at all, doesn't it?
It isn't. It's all well and good to speak of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but the more it seems to me that it's only the life and liberty of the most well endowed that we care for.
Should that be a question you should pose to the Colonel then? I would, but I wouldn't do it as eloquently as you can, Siobhan.
I don't know that it's so much a question as it is an indictment of his entire theory.
So what you're saying is that we're sitting here practically wasting our time asking questions when we could just be doing instead of asking?
I think that's exactly what I'm saying, Alice. Would you care to absent yourself with me in full view of everyone? I think it would be lovely if we just got up and left while he's answering questions.
Is my father there?
I think a lot of people are here, yeah.
He's wearing his uniform. Of course he's there.
Oh, shit. I think she's shaken, but in a way that she's susceptible to whatever people tell her to do. And Siobhan said a lot of cool words. And, and Alice actually has the thing she kind of wants to ask Siobhan. So she's kind of like, okay, if you think that'll send a message.
And I think Siobhan has sat both of them like right towards the front and is of course wearing some sort of glorious deep red gown. And so when she stands to leave, the entire room sees it happen. And I think a few other people actually leave as well, like on the back of us getting up and walking out.
Yeah, I think when Siobhan stands up, it's all glorious and resplendent, almost like a worm, so to speak, worm with a Y. I was kind of like, oh, yeah, sure, yeah. Just stands up as well.
Yeah.
Siobhan, this is shutting somebody down, but my only question is, are you trying to snub Higginson more or your headmaster more? Because your headmaster is the person that you would immediately be snubbing by showing him up like this, but you could also be directing right at Higginson. So
I think I'm directing it right at Higginson. I mean, I think I'm directing it at the entire patriarchal system, but Higginson is a good choice. And I roll an 11.
Jesus, what do you want to do to this poor historical?
I think I would like Hmm. Actually, no. I think I would like it to be my headmaster, and I want a string.
Done and done. Good fellow. Cool. Take a string on Lloyd. Good fellow.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys walk out into the reception area where the aide and the cook are still laying out the collation. I think it's probably in the backyard of the church. And they're like, "Oh, excuse us, mistress. The table's not prepared yet. If you wouldn't mind just waiting a little bit on the side."
Oh, don't mind us. We just stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. Everything in there smelled of old ways.
Well,
Laying out luncheon.
I wouldn't know anything about that, Mom.
Yeah, there's really not much there. Just, a lack of answers for the plight of the recently emancipated.
Well
That's all there is
said,
in there.
Alice.
Well, I wouldn't know much about that either, young miss. And of course the headmaster comes storming out right now. It's like, Miss Hunter.
Siobhan has already taken her cigarette holder out and is lighting a cigarette.
Oh, he's not that. Miss Hunter.
Yes,
Young ladies of my school do not abuse tobacco.
She looks him up and down and says, "But I'm not a young lady of your school. I am a young lady of this town at this moment. I don't see the schoolhouse anywhere." I'll just re-roll that shut somebody down. Just for I roll an 8.
Cool. Excellent. So, what are you doing to poor Lloyd?
I am going to give him a condition, which is cowed.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess your family probably has big into the school's endowment.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. But he just looks at you as, if I should have to write your father about your appalling behavior, I'm sure both he and your mother, the Duchess, would be most perturbed at some of your actions. Of course, there's no need for me that, provided you remember that you are presenting the face of this to the world, and you will keep your place. I want to say put in place, but I really think it's just woman is your condition.
Yep.
Yep.
But I think, he is fully shut down, and so she just looks back at him and says, "Well, we all have our place, don't we, sir?"
Ouch. Cool. So, Higginson sort of takes this all in stride. And he just looks around like, well, I guess we're breaking up for lunch, and sort of gives a little nervous. And so you guys are coming out in the.
Wait, did I shut down the entire group? But just
a little bit. Poor Brighty and Mag are scurrying around trying to get everything ready. The champagne. They're trying to get the punch finished, and everybody's just around now. Higginson's talking with some of the old veterans, but being a decently walk the walk limousine liberal of his day, he is time to talk to anybody. So of course, the headmaster leads him straight to you, Brody.
Yeah.
So, Colonel, this is young Master Brody. He's one of our scholarship students. It's like, well, pleased to meet you, Brody. Gives you this really hard shake.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Colonel Higginson, sir. I was I really liked what you wrote in the last book. The last book you wrote, it was real interesting, and I think he will actually form like a coherent question to ask about it, but that's beyond me at the minute. So
That's a very person you asked me there, young Master Brody. Well, yes, I think that the tendency in modern letters is towards a more naturalistic expression of the human condition. We don't have to be quite as bad as, say, Zola or something. we're not French, but clearly the trend more realistic appreciation of human society is in fact, I think, a salutary effect on Americans. I think it is an area that we can excel. Do you write, Mr. Brody?
not really, sir. A little here and here, and what I do for school, of course. I mean, I've written a little poetry, I suppose, but nothing I've shared with anyone.
Well, if you ever feel like it's up to snuff, Brody, I encourage you to forward it along to me, and we'll see what the Atlantic would think about it. Howells is always on the lookout for some material.
Thank you, sir.
Of course, Brody. Of course, he's already forgetting your name. Cool. So, Alice, where are you?
I'm kind of following Colonel Higginson because, again, my dad told me to make an impression, but again, it's taking me a while to figure out what to do.
Are you trying to approach him, or
Do you need encouragement?
I think it's very obvious that I'm staring at him. If Siobhan wants to encourage her, sure.
Alice, did you have something you wanted to say to the Colonel?
Not really, but I was
Only you're
told.
staring at him like you're burning holes into him.
I was. My father said a lot of words, mainly make an impression, write letters, I think. He wanted me to talk to the colonel, but I'm not really sure why.
It could be because he is an influential man and your father wishes you to have connections.
Yes. He used that word, connections, but I wouldn't know. This is more up your alley again, Siobhan. I wouldn't know what to do with a connection, even if I knew what it was.
Well, would you like me to make an introduction? I'll try not to be too offensive.
If yeah, please.
So she puts out her cigarette, tucks her cigarette holder into her little bag, and strides up to the Colonel with you in tow. Says, Colonel Higginson.
our most eager student. I suppose you were half famished in there to come running out to lunch so quickly, young lady.
Lady Siobhan Hunter, I apologize. I did feel quite ill and need to take the air.
Oh, of course. I understand.
May I present Miss Alice McBride? She was quite eager to make your acquaintance.
Oh, well, I'm always happy to speak to the students at this academy. Colonel Fairchild was a friend of mine. You know, we shared many of the same attitudes in those days. Those fiery days. Yes.
He was a lovely man. Wasn't he, Alice?
Well,
I'm sure he was, if since he was your friend indeed. I just want to know, Colonel, what do you make of the plight of the recently emancipated?
the freedmen? Well, I have to say that they've, I believe that they've done a poor turn. Freedmen's Bureau has not looked out halfway for their interests. It seems that few in the north motivated to help them now that they're no longer slaves. It's
Doesn't it seem like the active emancipation is being treated more as a simple cure rather than the start of what should be a long and lengthy rehabilitation process?
my,
Well said, Alice.
quite well said indeed, young lady. I happen to have certain contacts down in South Carolina, which is where which is my regiment during the War of the Rebellion, and they are in desperate of teachers to help educate the poor unfortunates. Have gained their freedom, but so little else. Uh, if you would be interested in graduation, please feel free to write me. I shall issue a recommendation and advise you on accepting such a position.
I, I would be honored, Colonel. My father speaks highly of you.
My goodness, is Winfield McBride your father?
Yes. My father.
That'll.
Yes, he speaks highly of what you've done in the war, sir. And
Oh. McBride was one of our more reading abolitionists back in the day. I don't know if he's told you that, but
at this point, Alice is she's just nodding now. I think she's just like, yes, he's retired now, sir. So I mean, we have no shortage of stories.
Yvonne sort of sees how uncomfortable you are and says, well, we really must leave you to socialize with the other guests. But Alice, you will be sure to write once we graduate.
Of course. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you so much, Colonel Higginson, for the offer.
not at all, not at all. So I want to know what Finch is doing.
So Finch is probably. I first was watching. Was actually just observing a lot of this, but I think that there's a certain. I think that first and foremost, I want to get a vibe off of my my little birds, as I call them, with my streaming ability, and so I can always hear their emotions and fears. And so I kind of wanted to get a gist off of what was happening, specifically with Magnus, but checking in with the others as well.
Well, so they're curious of you, and so therefore looking attentive while feeling bored. But Magnus is definitely stewing, because you put him down pretty in his place, and he is not happy about having given place to Brody, who is very much beneath him.
Well, I think that I'm going to wisely choose to ignore their feelings right now. And at this point, I think I'm going to go over and talk to Brody, because I'd like to let everyone know who's in charge. And so as soon as the the colonel has meandered off and is become engaged by the young ladies, I close the distance and I say, so or was it everything that you had hoped?
Yeah, the Colonel seems a real interesting guy. I never thought I'd have the chance to talk to someone like him. You know, a famous writer and all.
Well, you are going to the vaunted field of academia, so be prepared to talk the talk and rub elbows with those who are of a greater station from where you started, but certainly not where you are going to go.
It's nice of you to say. I can't say I think I'm going to be all that, but
Now, the headmaster has spoken so positively of your writing that I gave it a read myself, and I think that you have quite a lot of interesting things to say.
I try my best. You know, I never thought I'd get the opportunity to do this, and now I have. It's I do want to make something of myself. You know, that's and it's just also different to what I grew up with. You know.
Brody, would you like me to let you in on a secret?
Of course, if you wanna.
Oftentimes in this world, it doesn't really matter how hard you work or the quality of what you do. Those things are important for legacy. What's much more important is who you know. So, have you ever given thought to spending more time with people of a different caliber from your friends down at the docks?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's not. I haven't thought of it more. Well, you know, it's mixing with quality folk like yourself. It's not what I'm used to. It's
Oh, but certainly you must get used to it. After all, your peers are going to be of much higher levels than anyone you've ever dealt with before. You must learn how to walk amongst circles that you've never even thought of before. And I think that I might be able to help.
that'd be real kind of you, Greenwood. If it's not a bother to you, I'd appreciate any help you can give, and if there's anything I can do for you.
Oh, of course, it's no bother at all, Brody. And I think that there's, of course, at some point in the future, should I ever need anything of you, I think that you would be only so happy to oblige if I were to, help a little bit here or there. After all, I keep a tight circle, and I like to make sure that the people within it are well taken care of. And at this point, I actually closed the distance a little bit, and I and kind of looked at. I'm assuming that I'm very tall, actually, and so I kind of looked down at you a little bit, and it's like I like to make sure that those in my circle are taken care of. And I think I'm going to roll to turn some with my hot -1. Oh, and it's a 4. I was trying this time.
Um, so, um, this comes storming up to you and says, Greenwood, man, word with you if you don't mind. If you have, if you time for me, old chum.
Sorry, who was it? It cut out a little bit.
Magnus.
Magnus. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I look over at Brody and see if he says anything in this particular situation.
Magnus is giving you such a look, Brody.
And Brody is also probably just slightly tongue-tied at the minute anyway, so yeah.
So I kind of shrug and I say, well, think about it. And then I allow Brody to shepherd me away.
Right. I don't
And
think we need to get.
Jonathan is just going to give a little sigh as he walks off.
Cool. I mean, the conversation is going to be very much about Magnus flipping out in a genteel manner about this whole thing. But meanwhile, so Alice and Siobhan are walking away from all this. Alice, you hear from the alleyway next to the church. You hear what sounds like a shriek of pain. You're not a person or an animal or what, but that's what you hear.
I hear that, and I'm kind of like, because when we were left, I was kind of like giddy and smiling, but in hear that I kind of like this is kind of without even thinking, I just suddenly start running at at the noise.
Fair. So when you round around the alley, you see that there is a fox, which is unusual to see a fox downtown in Kingsport. And one leg is pinned behind under under a crate or something, and there's a couple of very mean tomcats menacing it, and so that's why I'm screaming with that horrific human-sounding scream that a fox makes.
I kind of like, I don't know, that suddenly it feels like Alice kind of goes almost into autopilot. It's like suddenly she sees this fox, and suddenly there's a weird kinship that she feels, and she kind of just without like emotion or anything, just starts picking up rocks and throw stuff at the tomcats to get them off the fox.
I don't think I even really need it there. I mean, you throw rocks at cats. People, unfortunately, did that in this period, and because people. So yeah, the cats scurry off. The fox still screaming. Its leg is still pinned.
I think Siobhan catches up with you because she didn't run out of panic.
I think Siobhan notices that Alice is kind of ignoring her and is moving towards the fox, and she's gonna try to
Oh,
sorry, say that again.
I said, Alice, be careful.
It's a fox. It's more scared of me. Don't worry.
It's a trapped animal and it might strike out at you.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I think kind of the trance is slowly breaking. She's gonna like, I don't know why, but it'll be okay. Don't worry, Siobhan. I don't know much about politics, but I do know this. And she's gonna try and unpin.
So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to roll to keep your cool, except roll with dark.
Ooh. Okay. Should I say what I'm afraid is going to happen?
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Oh, poor Alice. She's afraid that the fox is gonna prove her wrong. And prove Siobhan right. Okay. That's an 8.
Cool. You'll get it free if you take a harm.
I'll take it.
Oh, good. Cool. All right. So you get in there and you free the fox, but it's like and it nips at you as you free it, and then it tears off, headed for the woods or headed out of town. You're not that close to woods here, but so you stand up. Your hand is bleeding. Drops of blood are hitting the cobbles.
I'm staring at it because, wow, I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know I could bleed until now.
And Siobhan like rushes forward and wraps a handkerchief around your hand while you're staring blankly at it. Says, I warned you.
It's just no, it's fine. It was just a cut. It was just a
Creatures, when
cut.
they're trapped and injured, lash out at those around them. Same is true of men, as it happens.
Only men?
Well, human beings.
Okay. And I'm kind of half listening. I'm just looking at my hand, just like.
While you looking at your hand, you hear the cawing of a raven from overhead, and a little card, a little greeting, a visiting card comes drifting down and lands on the palm of your hand.
What does the card say?
Dear Miss McBride, I request the honor of your presence. Watkins House, 4 p.m.
What on earth is that?
She's looking around and she's like, I guess I've been invited. Do you know the Watkins house?
Well, I know where it is.
I can tell you about it. It's also abandoned. It's been closed up for decades. Whoever owns it hasn't bothered to open it for.
I don't understand why someone would be inviting you to meet them there. Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, it probably does. No, you're right. You're right, Siobhan. This I don't know if I should just be accepting invitations like that. I think she got noticed finally the hand is gonna like, oh shit, I should act like I'm in pain, and that translates to fingers just twitching a bit.
Siobhan like insists and starts wrapping her handkerchief around your hand to stop the blood.
No, it's fine, Siobhan. You don't have to.
Not. You can't bleed freely in the street like some hooligan. Let me fix you up.
Okay. Yeah, she just lets you. And I think I was gonna ask, how did you? Sorry, Siobhan. I just wonder, like, how you could be so. She's trying to find the words. Just bold, or how do you know so much? How you can be so free?
Well, I'm afraid my parents have gotten a run for their money with me. Mother lets me do whatever I like, and father doesn't know enough to tell her no, and so you wind up with a rapscallion for a daughter who knows too much and speaks too freely and smokes in public.
You seem to do fine with it, though.
I do, but only because I have enough money that people don't know to tell me no.
Lucky then.
Luck, privilege, power.
I don't know. I get the feeling you'll be like this whatever class you're in. Is that a silly thing to ask to think? I'm sorry.
I don't know. Perhaps it is actually in my blood to be this impetuous and loud. But I would have met a bad end before now if I didn't have my father's money behind me.
Yeah. Just look at the card and so like, and she shows it at she showed it at you, and then she's just like, If you got the card an invitation like this, would you go?
Absolutely, but I'm a mad woman.
But it seems like it'd be fun to be a mad woman.
Well, if you're interested in an adventure, I'll go with you.
There's a part of me that wants to say no, but I don't think I'm there yet. Someday I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet, just like you, Siobhan. But
Well, and Siobhan finishes tying the handkerchief around her hand and like tucks a bit of hair behind your ear and says, "Well, maybe one day you will be." I'm gonna roll to turn on because it seems like that's what I'm doing.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I roll a 7.
Probably also, I think you were healing maybe with erotic attempt. A 7.
Yeah, roll a 7.
So your choice there, Alice. Give her a string, or do one of, or give yourself to her. Promise something you think she wants, or get embarrassed and awkward.
I mean, I do plenty of the third one already. I think I'll give her a string because I don't. She doesn't have it. Siobhan doesn't have any strings in me, and that doesn't seem right.
Great.
Cool. So I think yeah. Well, after you finished, she said you say that, and she's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I'm taking away from any other sort of adventure you could be doing. I mean, you don't have to come, but
What other sort of adventure could there be than an invitation that falls from the sky to an abandoned house that no one's seen the inside of in years? Goodness, I was just going to go home and read a book.
yeah, that doesn't sound as interesting as this. And she kind of, oh no, she's kind of, she does kind of like, she's waiting for you to lead the way.
Well, let's go.
Cool. Before we do that, I would definitely like to check in on Brody and Finch. So what are you two young lovers up to?
So I think that unless we want to roleplay it, I think that I've, possibly allayed Magnus's concerns and maybe just said that like I'm merely looking to grow my fold and will need all sorts of people to further my plots in the future, and including people who come from different social classes so that maybe they'll be more suspected than we shall.
Well, that's fine, old man. Just show a little propriety. I mean, such familiarity in sight of everyone. It's unseemly, Finch. It's unseemly.
It's funny that you should mention familiarity, Magnus. I did happen to see you being a bit more friendly with Joy than I think is comfortable for the little family that we've built here. Don't you agree?
So I have a question. Like, forbidding your family to court each other?
Yeah, no, because they're all begging me.
So yeah, he gets a little abashed and says, "Well, of course, old man. Only human. She's quite the attractive young woman."
And you are quite the strapping young man, as I have witnessed time and again. But to be sure, is that
I apparently just want to give you experience. But...
Especially because my hot is okay. It's still a 6. Wait, hold on. I have a string against him, so I'm going to spend it to push that to a 7. Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because I'm leveraging with him anyway, so that makes sense that I'm trying to get him back into my fold.
Oh, absolutely makes total sense. And I think it's time for a little hate makeup sex. So that's what happens.
So we're at the church, right? So it's gonna happen in the coat closet.
Well, he said he just mentions is like, my father. I have my father's trap. Would you care to take a little ride with me out past Flork?
Ooh, in a carriage. Okay, I feel like I can get behind that.
Yes, you can. Oh, and I want to see what Brody is up to.
Yeah, I think Brody has probably been watching Magnus and Finch and sort of sees them go off together, and I think he's kind of maybe a bit disappointed that I suppose he's got that kind of thought in his mind that if Finch didn't like immediately follow through with like his whole Pygmalion thing, then maybe he'll have forgotten about it by the next time they see each other, sort of thing. Yeah. I'm not sure if there's anything else he's particularly, he'll get some sandwiches or whatever from the buffet. Hang around a bit, but yeah.
I see Brody already has the grad students' appreciation for a free meal.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Okay. So, Siobhan and Alice, you arrive at Watkins' house, which is a big old, it's an old mansion. It may go back, it's not really a mansion, it's just a large house, but it's old. It goes back to the colonial period. And it's all shut up from the outside. The shutters are closed, but the door opens when you try it. And when if you look inside or step inside, everything inside has dust covers thrown over it. It looks very much like a house that's been put into not storage, but when you shut up a house. But very faintly towards the back, you hear the tinny sound of music.
Well, that's haunting.
You, again, you didn't. There's no point in saying you shouldn't have come with, right?
Not at all. This is an adventure.
Okay, but adventures can end more than one way.
I'm reading the Iliad at home. Give me something fun.
Okay, all right. I'll lead the way. Yeah. And then she's gonna walk towards the music.
Cool. So it's coming from what was obviously the ballroom. Though it's one of those rooms that has the dividing doors so to make it smaller. And the dividing doors have been closed, but it's clearly that this is the room that would be used ballroom. Now it's made up as a small dining room, and there's a table with a drop cloth dropped on it, and armchairs with drops tossed over them. But on top of the table is a genuine gramophone, and standing next to it is an elegantly dressed man. He's wearing a black suit. Surprise, it's the 1880s. But he has a very colorful blue and green waistcoat. He has long black hair and a long black beard, and he's wearing blue tinted spectacles, actually. And he's just sort of staring at the phonograph, going, huh. It's a remarkable device, don't you think? I mean, in my day, we would have had that whole string quartet. But on the other hand, the string quartet wouldn't have sounded like it was being dropped off a ship in the middle of a storm. So there's that to be said for it. But still, truly remarkable. Hello, Alice. Oh, you brought Miss Hunter. Interesting.
Who are you? She nearly said, "What do you think of the recently emancipated?"
Oh, Alice, I've had a lot of names. I think the one that you should use this time is the Master. I know it's not a very good name, but
Why don't you, why don't you choose another then?
Sounds rather
well,
ominous.
it's not of my choosing. It's of the choosing of someone else. And
Isn't
that
that
is more or less the reason I asked you to come.
Alice is hung up on another thing? It's like, isn't that how everyone's name is? Someone chooses that for someone else.
Well, it's another name that was chosen for me. I suppose is more accurate, but very well said. Very well stated, Alice. Very well stated indeed. Uh, your your directness and honesty will do you well in this mission. If you accept it, I can't make you. I would consider it a very great favor if you would, though.
Wait, why me? Um, I'm I'm not anyone. Not
Precisely,
really.
Alice. Precisely. You're not anyone.
Well, that's quite rude.
Miss Hunter, I understand you're immortal, and therefore you are assuming that I would, as all mortals do, lie with every word I say. Unfortunately, I speaking truth. Miss Alice is not anyone. That is precisely why she can be useful to me. Alice, there were services rendered, not necessarily by me, but possibly by those who owe me allegiance, but neither here nor there. I would ask of you a great favor. In return, I can reward you by whatever means are in my power. It is not a particularly difficult mission, though it may involve a certain amount of danger.
What? When she heard you could offer her whatever, she's her eyes kind of like widened, and she's kind of like very heedlessly, without even asking. It's like without even asking for any other terms. She's just like, "What do you want done?"
There is a woman. She's dying. And at one time, we were very close. For various reasons, it is not in my power for me to go of my own will and volition to presence. And for several reasons, but perhaps the most is that she does not wish it. I, I would simply ask that you go to her, commend my good and my fond memories to her, and ask her if it would please her to give me one last visit before she dies. We were very at one point. The break was not entirely of my fault, but I cannot say that I am blameless there. But for various reasons, I am fenced out. Whereas you, my dear, most probably can go in. I will give you the means to do it. And for some reason he vaguely waves at a mirror that got a drop cloth tossed over it, as if that explained anything.
I'm kind of like I'm a bit. I think Siobhan notices. I'm a bit of a. I. It's that same expression I was doing when Finch called at me. I'm trying to think of what to say.
Well, I think the question that needs asking is it dangerous? And what will you give her for doing your bidding?
It might be dangerous if certain people that are more actively opposed to my mission would get involved. If no, if as I Miss Alice can do, if she evades their notice, then there's far less. The worst danger would be the rather sharp tongue of of my former favorite. As for what I give Alice, she may name her price, and if it is within my power, I shall.
Well, that doesn't sound terrible, Alice.
No, it doesn't. He's right, though. I'm no one. I was given a name and a place, and Siobhan, it can be hard. It is hard. If you
Siobhan.
can.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, go on.
Siobhan reaches over and takes your undamaged hand and says, even if this is a name that you were given and a place that isn't yours, you're still a person.
But I'm not this person. I don't want to be this person. If he
You
can
don't
give
want to
me.
be Alice?
No. No, I really don't.
Well, then we'll make you someone else.
It'll be harder than you think, Siobhan.
I'm not doing anything.
Alice McBride, the giving of true names is within my power. But be forewarned, it would be a true name that I would know. That carries certain risks. I can't remove those risks. If you ask me to give you a name, I can, but it will be then a name I know.
Ooh. I think this task. This may we can I can't this I want that so much. I want myself. I want can I can't decide. No, I can't decide right now. Can I but I can't come back if I don't. I can't come back to you.
Well, what do you mean? You can. The means I shall give you shall allow you to come and go as you please. Well, let's breeze. My former favorite may have something to do with that as well, but this is not a one-way mission, Alice. I would not send you on a one-way mission. Not this mission. Not this mission.
Did you give me time?
Well, she does not have much time left.
Okay, fine. Fine. You rid me of Alice McBride. I'll do this. And she squeezes Siobhan's hand as she's saying this.
When moonlight strikes that mirror, you may step through it. Yes, I am aware. I am aware of the coincidence that brought us here, but then again, being who I am, I don't really believe in such things as coincidences. When it's that mirror, step through the glass, and you shall be conducted to my favorite to plead my case.
Sorry, internet cut out there. What's the last thing you said?
To plead his case.
No, when the moon hits the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. When the moon hits the mirror, you can step through it. It's fairy man.
Yeah. I think again, Alice squeezes Siobhan's hand, and she's trying to put on a confident face, but it does not come across. No, it doesn't. And she's like, okay, I'll accept that concord.
Cool. If it's okay, I'd like to cut back and check in on team other gay. So,
Days.
so you have your afternoon delight with Magnus. What do you do, Finch?
So at this point, I think that uh, good throwback. Good throwback. I think that I would like to. I kind of want to go back to the party because I feel like it probably didn't take that long. I mean, it wasn't short, but it wasn't like that long. And then so we like probably return to the party because I'd like to see now that Magnus is like back on my side. I'd like to go see what Jonathan is doing.
That sounds good. So you wanted to see what Jonathan's doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Because now I had to like work for this. I've decided that this is what I'm going to accomplish now.
Oh no. I mean, don't you? That's a move that the queen can have, right? Where you can make somebody part of your team.
Yes, but I have to. It's my sex move actually. When I have sex with someone, they gain a condition one of them.
That's fantastic. But that will never happen in a Monsterhearts game.
Never.
I kind of like the idea of you walking up the sidewalk and running into this Zach Brody coming home with his pockets stuffed full of sandwiches. Work for you, Q?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I want to call out that my collar is askew. I look a little bit not quite done up, and my collar is askew.
Oh, hey there, Greenwood. I thought you'd gone home already. I was just on my way back.
Do you stay at an apartment near the campus?
No, I stay with my folks in he'll name the sort of dockside area, which I know has a name, but I can't remember it off the top of my head.
And then Finch just like runs a hand through his hair and then smiles at you and says, have you given any more thought to my offer?
Oh yeah, no, I'd like to. Well, I don't know the right way to put it, but I'd like to learn from you. You know, be well, whatever you want from me.
And so he kind of like crosses his arms, which like bunches up his clothing a little bit and like just offsets the collar even more slightly. And then he looks at you and he says, just so you know what you're getting into, I demand loyalty from the people I allow close to me. I want to make sure that my attentions aren't undeserved. You know that to be counted amongst my friends means to promise a certain amount of fealty to my family.
Kind of like a Camelot sort of setup.
He like smiles a bit. And he's like, that is such a delightful way of putting it. And he kind of leans in and he's like, but yes, I think that is quite how I'm putting it.
Sure. He's kind of going to give a slightly Hopkins. You need me to go down on my knees, or
Finch grins a bit and is just like, all in good time. But not right now. A gentleman never dirties his suit in public.
The ritual is sex.
And his collar is still like aggressively ajar.
So, do you want to go somewhere now, or we can meet up later if you want?
I mean, are you asking to partake of my tutelage immediately?
Whenever works for you. I mean, I got my work in the mornings, and schoolwork to do after school. But other than that, my my time's fairly free.
At this point, Finch like closes the distance a little bit more, and like his expression kind of hardens up a little bit, and he leans into you and says, "Jonathon, may I make myself perfectly clear? I am much too good for this town, and let's be honest, I'm much too good for you. But I've decided to help you. I think that there's a lot of potential here, but I don't help weaklings. I help people who want to advance themselves. I help people who will do absolutely anything to get ahead. And so far, I've just seen you say this, that, and over there, but I haven't seen you stand up for anything yet. Tell me, Jonathon, what kind of person are you?" This will turn into a shut someone down, depending on how it works.
I stand up for myself, Greenwood. I stand up for other people when I need to.
Then tell me, Jonathon.
I don't know how to behave all fancy like you do, but I ain't gonna let anyone push me around either.
And Finch closes the distance just a little bit more, and it's now to the point where it's slightly improper, and he says, "Am I pushing you around?"
Not yet.
And he gets like right up in your face, and he's like, "How about now?"
And I think at that point he's just going to put his hands sort of on sort of your shoulders and not exactly push you away, but yeah, just kind of hold you in place, I think.
Somebody roll something.
Yeah, you're gonna have to roll to shut me down. Yeah, that's a shutdown right there.
Sure.
This is tragic. You should be turning on and you're shutting down. Young love.
Well, that's a 9 with my -1.
That's fantastic. So choose the things, and then Finch will give you a condition in return.
Yeah. Ooh, what do I want to go for? I think yeah, I think I'm going to give a condition as well. I'm just trying to think what will be overbearing, I think.
Goes very nicely with my aggressive.
Yeah.
You're a boar, man. You're a boar. You're straight up boar. Cool. What condition are you handing back?
I can't decide. No, in the context of the fiction, it's gonna be weak.
Beautiful. Cool.
I was gonna go with prude, but weak is definitely what Finch would say.
Week is perfect. So, back at the Gins house. Around sunset, the moon will be bright enough to cast its feeble light into the room because it's it's not first, it's not even first crescent yet, but the master is not there. You're not really sure when he left. He just wasn't there at one point, and you didn't remark upon him, so that happened. But you can doff off of the mirror and let the moon shine on it if you wish.
Siobhan,
Yeah.
this may be a frightfully direct question, but I want to know. Sorry, no, that's too direct. I would like to know why you care so much about this. Is this all just an adventure?
Well, Alice, there are frightful few things in this world that I do care about. Even less people. And I count you among them.
Now she's blushing, and it's just like, that's awfully kind of you, caring about no one like me.
I'm not generally a kind person, Alice.
Then I'm sorry for calling you so.
I am capable of kindness, but I am, for the most part, a vain and selfish creature.
Anyone who'd claim themselves as that, I don't think anyone would claim themselves as that without trying to say they're not.
Well, I guess I'm not like everyone.
This is Alice's way of flirting. Having deep philosophical questions about.
You're rolling the
Yeah. This is her idea of turning someone on. Yeah, sure, why not? Oh, that didn't work out too well. That was a 6.
Oh, 6, huh?
Well, you get an experience.
Yeah, at least that.
Failure is fun.
Failure is fun.
Really?
The whole base
Cool.
of the apocalypse world.
Yeah.
Powered by the apocalypse.
So, this is what happens. You're talking like that, and you hear a crash, and you look in the corner, and the grandfather clock there has fallen to the ground. And when you look up, it's much darker, and the moon is almost setting. There's been some lost time in there.
Well, go.
Okay. All right. Oh, what did we? Okay. All right.
I don't think I
take,
can go with you, but good luck.
You could try. I don't know.
I mean,
Okay.
she will if she's invited.
Oh,
Maybe Alice should go first then.
Yeah, I think when Siobhan says go, Alice kind of is struck by the time, and she's like, okay, all right, and she kind of forgets to like invite Siobhan. I think she kind of assumes that Siobhan will follow along, but yeah, Alice is just gonna jump in through the
All right,
looking
so
I think
glass.
Siobhan hesitates for a second and then walks after her. But whether
So
or not the mirror
you
lets
pull-
her in is up to the mistress of ceremonies.
So the mirror is one of those is a big pier glass, the kind on the tilting thing. So you pull it off. Of course, you see beyond it a different house, and of course, when you step through, and Siobhan can follow,
Great.
you find yourself in what looks like a very comfortable middle or upper middle class house. But there's a deep stillness. It's that kind of sound you get in a house when everybody else is asleep. But it feels almost more than that. It feels like there's almost an enchantment of sleep. Like you don't think people are going to wake up no matter what happens right now. But you're as you stand there, you realize that you're kind of near the front hall, and from the sitting room, you hear the unmistakable sound of a pen scratching on paper.
Well, shall we say hello?
That's yes, that's
Okay. Well, sitting at a desk in the sitting room is a woman who doesn't look that old, but she clearly looks like she's in pain. She has the kind of withered face of someone is in the middle of a long illness. Her hair is mostly red, though it's fading now to gray at the temples. And she's dipping the pen into the stand, and she looks up and sees you, Alice, I think, first, and goes, "Who are you?"
I'm a messenger. I'm no one. Just
Oh, well, I'm nobody. I guess that makes a pair of us, doesn't it? Well, look at the time.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point to.
yeah.
Awesome.
That was cool.
Cool. Let me just get this done. So that was fun. Yeah. So next week we'll maybe learn a little bit more about the Master's mysterious former favorite, and let me grab the thing here, and we'll start that up. So I hope you have fun. I'm gonna post up this debrief link so we can talk. And I had fun. You guys are amazing. Wow, holy cow, this is just, you guys are gonna tear each other to bits. It's gonna be great. So I am so looking forward to next week. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks all.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'll see you on the debrief if you want to hang out for a little while.
Great.
All right. Ciao, guys.